Flutter is used for building the cross-platform application which can support on different OS. But it is really possible to make one cross-platform applications using Python programming language? And the answer is yes. You can make one cross-platform applications using Python. Instead of using Flutter, you can also use Python. So there is a package in Python that's called Flet. Using this package, you can build one cross-platform application like Flutter. So alright, so now you can see here there are two applications is appear on the left and the right corner. So this application is built by using Python and this application is built by using Flutter. So here is Flutter using the Dart programming language to build the applications. So in this video, you're going to design this complete UI from the scratch. You don't need to do the Flutter this amount of code to build one applications. You're going to just build this application is few lines of code. So at the end of the video, you're going to see that how can you make one executable installer file for the Windows. You can click on this application and you can actually run the application on your Windows machine. If you don't know what is Flutter, you can follow my crash course for absolute beginner in deep dive. So this is the 4-hour long course. At the end of this course, you can design one WhatsApp UI. So don't waste your time, just go on my YouTube channel playlist and see the Flutter crash course for absolute beginner and keep learning. So when you run the Flutter application for the first time, you can see here one counter applications. This is by default actually built by Flutter community. You can see here Flutter increment button. So you can also build this kind of application in Python also. You can see here the increment button. So which is already available on the Flet documentations. So that's why you see that it is more similar to the Flutter. That's mean you can actually using the all widget that is already available in the Flutter. You can use this inside your Python code. So this is the official website of the flet.dev, the fastest way to build Flutter apps in Python. That's mean using Python you can now build the Flutter application. So now let's click here to get started. And you can also read their documentation. How can you install this? It is simple to install. Simple, just open a command prompt and type here the library name is called the Flet. So there should be the command for that, pip install and library name is called Flet. Just enter and it will install this library on your system. And make sure that Python should be installed on your system. So in order to build the applications, first you need to make one basic template. Following this template, later we can design this. In the step number 1, first you need to import here the module. Then you need to define here one main method. And finally, we need to also call these functions using our Flet library. So now first import here the Flet, this our library. Then we need to define here one main functions. So let's say def main. Let's make it pass right now. If you know Flutter, Flutter actually run the main.dot file. That's mean every programming language actually first call the main functions, or you can say the main method in object-oriented programming language. Now we need to also run the applications. So in order to run the applications, you need to also call this function. So let's say flet.app, and inside this you need to give here one parameter that's called the target. So which one take one functions. So you can define here the functions. Now inside this function it will take one page. So this page is nothing but one widget. That's the instant of widget. So why widget? Because this Flet library is actually using the Flutter. That's mean using Flutter you can build one mobile application using Python. Okay. So for that we need to actually import here the page. So this page is nothing but one widget in Flutter. So right now in the Flet library you can also use this as a widget. So now from Flet you're going to import here the page. We need to create one instance of that. So let's say page and this page. Well, so now if I'm actually save it and go to the terminal and new terminal and let's say python main.py. Okay. Then you can see here one basic template is created. Now what I can do, we can design these entire applications. So we can actually add here one app bar. Then we can add here 2 text field, also 1 images, and also 1 simple pattern, right? So for that, what I can do, we are going to first here import here the app bar. So let's say this is called app bar. So this is app and bar. And also we need one text field. So let's say text field. Then what we need also one image and also one button. So that's called the field button. Okay, this one. So we're going to build this inside our page. So for that, first we are going to actually add our app bar. So for that, we can use here page dot, this called app bar, because this is the app bar of our page, and it will take one app bar. So let's say app bar. So this app bar is nothing but one widget in Flutter. So definitely it have one title. This is more similar to the Flutter. You can, if you know Flutter, you actually understand this code easily. So let's say the title. So this title is taking one widget, and you can see this is the title, and control equal to none. So this title is actually taking one widget. So let's say give here one text, and inside this text, let's give here our applications. That's in our application name. We need to also import it here, this text widget. So let's say text d1, and let's give here the widget name. Let's say login from. Okay. So now if I save it and run the code here, let's say python main.py, or you can also run the application from this button. Okay, we got this error. Okay, let's actually close this right now. So if I run the code here again, let's say python main.py, and you can see here our app bar is not actually added here. Why? Because we actually loading our application. That's when we actually restart our applications. So in order to actually guess the state of the applications, we need to actually using here page.add. So let's say page.add. So make sure that when you actually add here any widget, you need to actually use here this page.add, because inside the page.add we actually add our widget, right? So this app bar is actually already attached in our page.app bar. So that's why you don't need to pass it inside your page.add. So now if I actually save it and run the code here, let's say python main.py, and it will actually add here one app bar in your application. You can see here the login from. So now we can also change the background of our app bar. Okay, so let's close it right now. We can also change the width and the height of our window, right? So we can also do it. Just actually first actually make the color of the app bar. So this is our app bar, and there should be one property that's called the BG color, or you can say the background color. Okay, so let's say BG color, and this color you can give here as a red color. So that we see earlier. We need to also import it here. Let's say colors. So let's say colors dot, you can give here the red color. So you can see red 800 like that you see in the Flutter also. So let's say red 800. You can also make the center title should be true. So this center, the title should become in the center. So let's say center title. You can see center title. You can make it true. Okay, cool. So now if I save it and just go on here and say python main.py, and it will actually open the applications. Okay, you can see here the app bar. Okay, cool app bar. You can also resize it. So now if I run the code again, these applications is not resized automatically. So you can also add here the window height and the width manually. So let's click here to close that right now. We can also run the application from here. Okay, no problem. So now what I can do, we can actually give here the size of our window. So let's say page dot window. That's our window width and the height. So let's say window width. So window width, let's give here the 300.00. You can give it in the integer format, but better you can give in the floating point number. So let's say page dot window is called the window height, right? So let's say window height. So let's give here equal to 720.00. Now if I save it and run the file here, just say python main.py, or you can run the application from here. Okay, and you can see here our application is actually converted into 300 cross 70, or you can say 70 cross 300. That's been height and the width. So let's run the application also here. Just you can click here to run the applications, and you can see it's also run. Well, so now what I can do, we can add here one image, and after that we can add here two text field and also one button. Okay, so for that what I can do, we can actually add here one image, right? So we can use this image widget. Okay, so let's say image, And inside the image, you can give here one source, and you can see ref equal to none. You can give here the width, you can give here the height, you can also expand it, you can actually give here the tool dip, okay? You can also disable it, any kind of thing you can, okay? So now what I can do, we can give here the source of the images. So I am going to take the image from the internet. So I give here the source, and how I actually give here the path of the images. So you need to just give here one F and the colon, and inside that you can give here the path of the images. You just put here one image inside your directory, working directory, and you can give here the path of your images. So if you know Flutter, many of the time you're actually using the box feed.cover. So you can also use the feed property inside your Flat application. So let's say feed. So inside this feed, we are going to use here the content. Okay, that's been our content. It actually using like box feed.cover like that. And now we're going to give here one, paste here one link of our image. You can also give here as a image from your working directory. So I'm going to just give here one image. Okay, now I am going to actually add it inside my page.add. So let's define here one variable that's called image, and I'm going to just pass it inside our page.add. Okay, and now I'm going to run the code here and see that our image is loaded or not. And you can see here our image is loaded correctly. Well, now it looks cool. So what I can do here, because our login form is actually following one condition or following one pattern that's called column. That's mean we can actually define the space inside one column, and we're going to add here the property of that. Okay, so I'm going to click it to close that here again. So now what I can do, we can actually wrap this image inside one column, because we have also the text field of the login and the password. So let's first actually initialize it here. So login equal to, just actually use here this text field property. So text field, okay, and you can give here one label. So let's say this called label. So this label is nothing but for our text field of the email. So let's say email. So this should be the email, and you can also give here one hint text of that. So let's give here the hint text. So there should be the hint text. You can give here hint text as a string. So let's say email address, double D, this called email address. And another one, let's create it for the password. So let's say password. So password is also one text field, but the password field should be protected. Okay, so for that you can actually use here some property of the password. So let's say password should be true, so that you don't see it. So let's say password should be true. You can also add here one icon. So in order to actually add here one icon of the, you can show it or don't show the password. So you can actually use here one can reveal password. You can make it simple true. So now what I can do, we are going to add this login, the password inside our page. So for that we can actually use here one column, because we're going to add it one by one. So that's why you're going to use in here one column widget, and this column widget is taking the children, not child. So we need to also import it here, right, from the Flet. So let's import it, column, and now inside the column we are going to first paste here our image, then you're going to give here our login, then we're going to add here our password, right? So now if I save the code and run the code here again, then you can see here our login, that's been our email, and this is the password. Okay, I think we need to also change it, right? So let's say password, and our hint text should be the password. Okay, or you can say the enter password. Okay, it's up to you. So let's close it, let's delete it, not close it here. So now let's run the code and see the output also. Well, you can see the login from the email and the password. Okay, now we need to add here one button, simple button. So let's use it, this Flat field button. So let's say btn button, and use this field button here. So let's say field button, and inside that you can give here the label of the button. So let's give here the label of the button should be, let's say, login. Okay, let's make it small, login. Then you can also give here the width and the height of your button. So let's give here the width. So let's give here the maximum number width. So we have the maximum width should be the 300. So you can also give it 300, no problem. it will actually make it expandable. And let's say give here height. So let's give here the height as 45. Let's make it, and also add it inside outside at the last of the column. So this should be the button, right? So btn, this button, and now save it and run the code here. Okay, there should be one error. Init got an expected keyword that's called label. So actually there not should be the label, so there should be one text. Okay, so let's run the code here again. Okay, why I'm doing it again and again mistake. So this is for the text. Well, now you can see here login and the email and the password. Okay, so now we can actually give here some spacing of that. You can also give here the spacing. To in order to give here the spacing, or you can make it center. To do that, you need to also wrap this column inside one container. That's been inside one container. You can actually give here your column. So for that, what I can do, we can actually wrap this column inside one container. So let's say wrap this inside one container, and you can also give here the alignment of the container. So let's say container. So let's actually copy this and also import it here, because we need to also import it. So inside the container, you can actually pass here the column. Then you can actually give here the alignment of your container, and also you can give here a spacing inside your column, right? So for that, what I can do, we can also give it a spacing, right? So there should be property should be here spacing. So spacing, and you can give here at say 40. And now if I am trying to add it inside our container, so let's say you need to give here one content. So this is the content, and this content is nothing but our column. So this is our column. Just actually cut it from here and just paste it. Okay, so now our error is gone, and try to format it little bit. Okay, and now if I save it, you can just see here one container, and inside a container, and this is our application. And you can also see here the spacing. We just give here the spacing at the 40. Now it looks cool. Okay, you can also make this button should be functional. So for that, what you need to do, there should be one property inside your button that's called the onClick. That's been onClick listener, like that. So this is the onClick. You need to define here one function. So let's say button click. Okay, so you need to define this function here. So let's define here the function that's called the button clicked. So this is the button click. Now to give here one parameter as the argument, let's give here e, like that, and let's try to print here something. Let's say button, or let's say button button click. Well, so now if I save it and run the code here, and you can see our applications. And now if I click at a login, and you can see a button clicked. Well, and you can see here how animation looks like. Okay, so now using Python, you can build this kind of UI easily. You don't need to write much more amount of code in Flutter. See, there are just 27 lines of code, and these 27 lines of code, you can make one simple UI. So now we're going to see that how can we actually convert this main.py file into one Windows executable file. So for that, you need to install here one package that's called the PyInstaller. Just open a command prompt and type here pip install, and library name is called PyInstaller. Okay, so this is the library. Just you need to install this library to actually building the Windows application. That's mean Windows executable file. Okay, now let's create that. So for that, you need to go on your working directory and click here and type here cmd. Now you need to type here PyInstaller and your file name. So let's say main.py and enter. And it will take few seconds to actually converting your Python file into one Windows installer. That's mean your executable file. Well, so now you can see it completed, and it also generates some file, one called dist. So what you need to do, you need to just go inside your dist and go to your application name, that's mean your main file, because this main file is generated based on your Python file, and searching for the main.exe. So this is our applications. If I click here and one console is open and also your applications. Cool. And you can see this is your applications login from. Okay. You can type here. So let's say Chando at the rate of, let's say, gmail.com. And also you give here the password. Let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. And you can also show it. You can see here 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay. Okay. You can also disable it. So later on, you're going to add here the Firebase Cloud Firestore database, so that we can also retrieve the data from here, and we can also make the registration from, and also the login from, and also we are trying to build one simple application using this Flet library. So if you are very interested to learn the Flet, that's been this Flutter with Python, comment below. I also try to make one crash course using this package. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and make sure to subscribe my channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon for never miss any update. And I'll be back with another tutorial. So till then, take care and bye bye.